Are we live? There we go. All I hear is Joey taking bong hits.
How it's supposed to start a 420 podcast, cocksucker?
Right? Alright, thanks, DK. Welcome to the Notcast. Sorry, I'm not on screen right now. I'm trying to share this on my laptop. But you can look at Bo's butt. His nutsack. So there's that for you. Bo, thank you for holding down the screen. Good dog. I'm going to give a quick share now.
Or are we just doing all the sharing?
Yeah, well.
We're making like Ozzy's wife and Sharon.
All right, Joey. You
Here we go. There's the YouTube link. Oh, that's so beautiful.
share now. Public. All right. I think we can do a podcast now. We can do a Notcast.
I was about to say, what are you talking about? This is not a podcast.
Happy 420!
Woo! Happy 420, baby boy. What's up?
What's up, buddy? I missed you.
I miss you too, motherfucker. Bo!
Well, look at the podcast, Bo.
Bo!
Look, technology.
Bo, remember me. We spoke when your father and I went on deep journeys when we were podcasting.
Dude, we podcasted really hard.
Dude, we podcasted. This is like do you remember the do you remember that 70s show episode where Leon's like is it Leo or Leon? I can't fucking remember. Leo's like he brings his brother in to like remodel the basement. And then they end up like only moving it like a little bit, and he tells her he's like Red's like, this is exactly the same, and he's like, no, it's your basement 3 inches to the left. Like, it's so stupid. But you remember how this podcast setup used to be in this room? I moved it for months into my room because there was just a little more room, and then I ended up going, you know what? I'm kind of tired of people just being in and out of my fucking bedroom. So then I moved it back into here, but just 180 degrees. So just a lot of fucking stupid stoner stuff to make this journey now to where we're at now.
A lot of
what? And you know what? There's a better view of that tree that you got comfort in when we were tripping balls.
I needed that tree. And I needed the church. The church too on the porch that day.
Right. Great architecture.
Beautiful architecture. So for those of you who don't know, Joey lives in Boston.
Please, Irish, sir.
Irish, Mr. Irish O'Neill. Are you gonna legally change that to your name?
No, but this is the thing I understand. I've got like 10 names. I hide behind like 40 different names, but Irish is my stage and comedy name that I am going with at the moment.
I'm gonna change all my profile names to Wolfgang.
Wolfgang.
Start speaking in a German
accent. you got to be the artist formerly known as Wolfgang.
The artist formerly known as Wolfgang. I think they're doing a special on Prince tonight on like ABC or CBS.
No shit.
I talked to my mom's parents on the phone for like an hour today.
It's kind of weird how they had all the. Do you think these were all planned? They have like all of these documentaries like ready and shit just to go right as this pandemic's happening. Like it's kind of perfect timing if you're a documentary or anything not in a movie theater.
I feel like a lot of people are releasing stuff early, knowing that people are sitting at home.
That's fair. It makes you question what, like, if they can get it out that fast, what's holding them back? Is it just money? Like,
do you think Louis C.K. wanted to release that material when he released it? You know what I mean?
Let me tell you. I mean, I bet it worked out in his favor. People only got time and fucking boredom. So, I got to think for anything that's digestible at home specifically, like you got to have wanted this to happen a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a place like Amazon, dude, how much more money do you think Amazon's making now? They had to have doubled or tripled their profits, I bet.
Oh my God, dude, I'm sure. I'm fucking sure. I mean, you've seen the fleets have increased the trucks that go around.
Yeah, and they've like started implementing delays. Like now it's at a point where it's like, well, what's the point of even having Prime right now because everything's just delayed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a weird world we're living in right now.
Yeah, great for
So,
podcasting.
for podcasting, yeah, it's perfect world for podcasting. Speaking of podcasting and podcasting, have you watched Duncan Trussell's new show yet that just came out today?
I have not watched it yet. I saw a clip that I think he showed on was it Rogan or there was some podcast he did recently where he had like a clip of it.
Yeah, he showed it on Rogan. It was like a clip of episode 3.
Yeah, it looks so cool, dude.
So it's a really cool concept. What it is, do you remember when Comedy Central used to do those shows that was like they would take someone's stand-up comedy bits and then like put them to animated?
Yeah. Because it's like bits. It's like kind of prepared bits and kind of like recorded podcast things, right? That they're animating to or something like that.
Right. So it's like conversations from the Duncan Trussell Family Hour, and then they've like dubbed in the same people that were on the episode of the podcast or Duncan, like. They have their voiceovers interacting with like whatever environment is going on with the animation. But
okay.
For the most part, the core of the episode is like a conversation with Duncan and someone that was on his podcast.
Interesting. Yeah, the clip with Joey was so fucking funny. I like, and that dude, it's it's just like it's so good.
Yeah, and Joey is like Joey does like a regular voice on the show.
Oh, okay. That's like, is that like a reoccurring character or just he himself is reoccurring?
Joey's voice is like reoccurring.
Gotcha.
Different characters. I only watched 4 episodes. That was like as soon as I got up this morning when I did my wake and bake session, and then I was like, God, I feel like I'm wasting away. Let me go do something with my life. But so I'll watch more of that later on tonight. But it's a really cool concept. And then like of course Duncan and the guy who animated it is like the guy from Adventure Time. So naturally it's trippy as fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, what a good combination too. If that's like what you're trying to put out too, like he's the guy you want animating that.
Yeah, either him or the guy who does the guys who do Rick and Morty.
I could see that too.
The Adventure Time guy and the Rick and Morty guy got together and did a show.
No shit, really? What show was that?
Well, I'm saying, could you imagine if?
I thought you said they did.
That would be really
fucking tremendous, dude. There's, I mean, if anything, being all this inside, it's going to force people to be more creative, just in everything. I mean, this is my thing too. Like, I'm curious, what's your opinion on like all these virtual like mics and stuff people are doing?
Well, before everything got shut down in our town, and we were still able to go to the open mics, I was already suggesting that we start live streaming because people were shut down in other places, and I knew that it was something that we were probably gonna have to start doing in this new world. But
sure.
What we ended up doing was instead of, because once everything got shut down, we were like, all right, so let's live stream stuff. Instead of doing like stand up, we started doing improv games.
Yeah.
And we've
kind
of created like an improv troupe, and we're hoping to build like a good little following with that and a good cohesion with each other and practice in this time. And when the quarantine lifts, we're going to try and get booked at different places, and then like do stand up and improv.
That's perfect. See, I love that. Like, because that's to me, like this has been my one thing, and I don't want to like disparage anyone that's doing like a virtual open mic or anything because at the base level, like I appreciate that they're trying to keep the craft alive. They're trying to keep their chops up, and whether they're putting in effort and work. I'm not disparaging, but just in and of itself, I find like a virtual open mic. I don't like the idea of it. Because it's like comedy needs an audience. You need to have that direct connection and instant feedback with the audience. And I don't think you get that. Like if you're doing a podcast, if you're doing like the improv thing you're talking about, I think is a great idea because it has a tangible road that you could keep it online, but you also have a very easy path to take it a place once this lifts. Like I know another buddy that's doing almost like a news type show where like he assigns like a couple comics topics and they like come in as like a correspondent and like do their segment. But it's like, you know what I mean? There's like, it's not like it. I think my only problem is like people doing straight up like their stand up. Like I think that that's like it doesn't work. And also like why put it out there where it can like stay up there when it's not when you're trying to develop it.
Yeah, so I see both sides of it, because when everything started, I was very gung-ho and vocal about us trying to do stand-up shows as a group, virtual stand-up shows as a group. But one of my fellow comedians, several of my fellow comedians, but Jim Swanson and Brian Siegel, you know, were quick to point out to me that for the same reasons that you said, that it's not a good idea, because of the lack of feedback, because of your material just being out there forever, and that material being out there forever, that might be something that you're trying to still in development.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, maybe you have a leg to stand on with it if it's like, if you've been doing comedy like a really long time and you're someone big, but like I've been doing stand up for only like 7 months. So it's like, I know that me trying to do like a virtual open mic is like only going to be damaging, because I like barely know what I'm doing now anyway.
Right. It's, you know, when I first started doing comedy, I was posting my stuff all the time, and I still do a lot. When recently I was posting a lot of stuff, and that's because people were asking for it. But when I first started doing comedy, I was posting a lot of my stuff. I would post a lot on YouTube, and people, some liked it. A lot of people like it. They like watching the progression, but other people, mainly Brian Siegel, pointed out to me, and it's good advice, that there are several different reasons why putting your material out there that early on in your career is bad. Yeah. So what I started doing is going back with that backlog and making everything private, so only I can watch it. And yeah, in the future, when I'm Chappelle level, I'll have no problem making all those videos public again for the backlog. But the problem with having that up is you don't want to have a bad set posted and a booker see it and think that that's your worth.
Yeah, because people have a short attention span. All they need to see is one thing. I mean, with that example, I always give like the Duke lacrosse story, because it's like, you know, we all saw the fanfare and everything during the trials of the Duke lacrosse boys and everything. But like, there wasn't that same energy running news stories when it turns out that like, oh, they actually were proven not guilty. Like I would say 60% of the people I still talk to, if I bring up the Duke lacrosse boys, they don't even know that they were proved innocent.
Yeah, I don't really know much about that. I was young when that happened. I can't.
Same, but that's the thing. I went on for years. I was like, oh yeah, the Duke lacrosse rape guys. And then like, if you go back and look, like in the trial and everything, it actually proved the chick was lying. Like she was found, they were proven completely innocent in court. Like she was actually lying. I think it was something like they used cell phone metadata or something like that. But you know what I mean? It's not like the news then runs like let's say they ran like those news stories for like 2 weeks straight, right? Like those, because I mean, I remember when they were running the stories, it was big and vivid in the news, but and they do, and that's just one example, but any kind of thing where people have been wrong or like someone's been proven innocent, they don't then run like 2 weeks of like apologies for smearing this person or because those Duke guys are always going to be remembered as the Duke lacrosse rape guys, even though they're innocent. That's just permanent now, even though they didn't do it.
You were proven guilty in the court of public opinion, and they stimulated that instead of talking about the the process of being found innocent.
And the fault really there is on the media, because the media cares more about ratings than the truth.
Right, and a bad story is better for ratings than a good story.
Absolutely. That's why it's like, hey, let's hammer you with like 85% of like death, murder, and all the shit, and then like here's a cute puppy flowery story for like the last 15%.
But getting back to comedy and what we were talking about, my advice with that would be is something I try to do more now, is be more selective with what you want to post. Don't go live always record yourself, no matter what, whether you're doing it to post or not. Then you can put it on YouTube, set it to private, and have it as a backlog and a cloud essentially for you to go back and learn from yourself and learn your progress and whatever.
Yeah.
But for the stuff that you record and you do want to put out, if you want to put stuff out, because I do like putting stuff out, because a lot of times at shows that I go to, there's not a big crowd, and my Facebook supporters are an extension of an audience to give me feedback on my jokes.
Right.
So I'll post stuff, because hopefully you'll see it, Joey, and like it, or you'll see it and go, hey, what if you said that here?
Exactly. And that's the thing. It's like, you don't even need to take all the feedback you're given, but like sometimes it's just nice to, and bring it back to the classic word we always bring up, perspectives. It's just nice to see another person's perspective might give you another idea for it.
Right. Exactly. And then, by the time that I get out to California or get to Minnesota or Canada or wherever it is that I go in my career, I might not be doing these jokes anymore.
Right.
So the people that are following me now and have been supporting me from the beginning, there's no reason that they shouldn't be able to enjoy the jokes that I'm doing at clubs. Yes, it might be preventing people locally from coming out because they know I'll just post my video, but to the people all around the world, it keeps them inclusive. When I can't be in front of them right now, when I can't go take a Greyhound or drive my van to Kentucky and do an open mic, Scott Cunningham can still see my comedy. But another good thing about it that I like and people like too is watching the progression. You know what I mean? I mean, you spoke about that when you first had me on your podcast and stuff, was watching the progression of a joke or just my comfortability on stage. It's almost like a documentary.
Yeah.
But the downfall of all of that is, everything that you pointed out about, still working out a joke or it just being out there for eternity when it's not something that you're comfortable with.
Yeah. Well, even if let's say it's a real fucked up joke too. Like, what if let's say how are you supposed to work out a rape joke in a virtual open mic?
Right.
Like, that's only ever going to look bad.
Right.
Like, there's sometimes like I'll make a point on the pod on S.T.C. and like it's kind of like a fucked up point, and then I'll kind of like pause for a second. I'll be like, guys, come on, like, you got to laugh or I sound racist. But it's kind of like that sentiment though with this virtual open mic. Like, even if you said like the most genius, irrefutably funny rape joke, right, without an audience there to laugh at it, it literally just sounds like you're like pro rape, like, what I mean? It doesn't sound good without the laughter is what breaks the tension. Like, at the comedy, it's about creating the tension and the release, and like you only have one side with the open mic.
It's almost supposed to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
We're talking about things that we're making light of everything else in our lives that cause anxiety and stress and trauma. So why not that? That's a whole nother rabbit hole that we could go down. No, but you're right though. When you are trying to work out darker material, it is, it's harder to do to crickets.
Yeah.
I
mean, that's what's hard with like, honestly, like, I think one of the most intimidating things is, and I've only done like 2 episodes ever like this on one of my podcasts, but like when people just do the solo podcast where it's like just them talking, because it's like, man, you have no feedback in real time. Like, I mean, you just have to trust that what you're saying people find interesting.
Right. But yeah, as far as doing the virtual comedy thing, my advice is just to be selective with what you post online. If you're going to post your progressions and your material, if you if you do a 5-minute set, maybe just chop out the best joke of that night and post that 30 seconds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's really the way to go with posting your material online. And then, that ties back into what you said about everyone having that's where the short attention span comes to your advantage. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So you just post that 30-second clip of your best joke instead of the 5 minutes of you up and down. You know. How long? So we were talking before the show and stuff, and I was trying to tell people you're in Boston. The reason I wanted to do this with you, this is like the first whatever remote podcast that I'm doing. I wanted to keep everything face to face, but your podcast is the first podcast that I did face to face. I rode a Greyhound up to Boston. You picked me up by Constitution Hall. We went back to your house, smoked, and ate refried beans. And,
dude, and it was wild because we were essentially just strangers that connected in the Church of What's Happening Now Facebook group.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm trying to go play. I was like, and I can't remember if it's like I posted about my podcast or you just posted. I think maybe it was you post. No, it was you. You made a post about being like, I want to travel more to get my stand up like outside of just the area I'm in. Like, where's podcasts or areas I can go to and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm up in Boston. And then like pretty immediately they're like, yo, what are you doing? Like, I think it was like that weekend or the weekend right after. I was like,
this weekend.
Yeah, I was like, nothing. I was like, my girl's going away, so fuck it, come up.
I think I contacted you on like a Tuesday or Wednesday. I got the ticket on Thursday, and then I rode the Greyhound on Friday and got, or I rode the Greyhound on Thursday night and got there on Friday.
And I pulled up my car and I'm like, as I live and breathe, Mr. Scott Wharton. And we smoked a fat fucking J. And then we came back and did lots of drugs.
Of course, naturally. We woke up the next morning and ate podcasts.
Yep, we ate 2 tabs of podcast and
we dosed some podcasts
with our friend Laura and
because it was her going away.
She's back now. She's back now finally.
She is?
Yeah. We were all supposed to go to Skankfest Houston or Skankfest South, and it got canceled like literally 2 weeks before.
Oh, that sucks. I submitted a video. I submitted a stand-up for Skankfest, and they never got back to me.
Same.
So,
It's all right. It's going to be happening in September, this one, and then they'll probably I don't know when they're going to do New York next, but there's always the next one. I think just keeping it going. We'll get in there.
Well, that's the thing about, we should be improving right now, and we're on quarantine. Nobody's doing mics, so should we be doing virtual mics just to fucking bomb and struggle?
I don't think so, because here's the thing, right? What's interesting about this is once it's over, it's essentially created a reset for everyone. Because you got to think, even people that have been doing it for 20 years, right? This is probably the longest that they've ever had to go without doing stand-up. So, like, in a sense, like, I'm not saying they're resetting from to zero, but like
a lot of people are resetting.
They're having to load a previous save.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, like, if you consider that, everyone in a sense is coming in, the playing field is going to be a little more even. Now, they're still in theory going to be funnier, but you just don't know. Like, some you can consider also how many people are going to drop. It's going to show how many people want it bad. There's going to be a lot of people that drop off that are there, because a lot of people have spent this time, or at least they should have, trying to answer a lot of questions they have in their life, do a lot of reflecting. This is a time for reflection. So there's a lot of people that might find like, oh, you know what? Like, I actually don't want to do stand-up anymore. I want to do this. Or they might, who knows? I want to spend more time with my family. Like, you just never know. But like, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens to stand-up after this.
Oh yeah, I never thought about it like that, Joey. So what decisions? I know you've been a sound engineer for a while. You're a musician, and you've been in several bands, right?
Yeah, I am.
You currently are in several projects.
Yeah. So I have my main band that's still going, Dane Sleeth. So we put out an album in the last year, and then I have this other project that I actually met up with these guys virtually. Funny enough, like years ago, I had a one of my YouTube vocal cover videos. He had reached out and was like, "Hey man, I'm putting this project together. You want to do vocals on it?" And I was like, "Yeah, fuck it, why not?" Like, he sent me some tunes and they were goddamn sick. Like, I was like, "This rules." He's like this kid in Amsterdam, and we've just been working together, and we put out another album. That band's Dragonfire. There's this kid, Lean Borhick over there. But yeah, dude, just kid virtually reached out and was like, yeah, just come, let's work on this project together and shit.
Nice. So you're doing sound engineering full time for your career, and you've got these two bands you're in. You have your podcast? How many podcasts are you doing?
So I just had launched a network recently, Last Stand Podcast Network, and on it right now is my main podcast, S.T.C, Shit Talking Cunts, that I've been doing for like 2.5 years now, which is just pretty much like a no holds barred, like, come on, like, talk some shit, like, nothing's like off the table, like anything and everything you want to talk about is totally okay.
Yeah, your podcast is brutal. Our friend Jesse Bright, he would fit in well on your podcast.
Yeah, and honestly, because it's just like I grew up like I can remember the first 2 comics I ever watched on TV, and I was like really young. I maybe was like 10 or so. It was one of Carlin's last 2 specials. I think it was maybe like Life is Worth Losing, or it was like It's Bad for You. It was like something like, it was one of the really like last 2 that he did when he was older. And I saw that like 10, and it just, I just connected with the raunchiness of it. It was just so fucking funny to me. And then it was the other one was like one of Ralphie May's specials. And I just, so like, I don't know, I've always gravitated towards like more dark, fucked up humor. It's funny to me. Like, it's not to say like clean humor doesn't make me laugh, but like, I just don't connect with it as much. So like with S.T.C, that's just kind of my outlet to, and you know, I'm not even necessarily trying to be some warrior for free speech, but it's just like, I don't know. I think that anyone should be allowed to joke about fucking anything. It might not be funny. It might be a shitty joke, and then you should have to like suffer in the silence of not getting the laughs that you wanted. But like beyond that, that's it. And then the other podcast I started doing in the last year, we're about to do, I think this week we're doing episode 50. We have there's this guy, charismatic, that I met when I started doing comedies, this big fucking beautiful Nigerian motherfucker. And he had this podcast he wanted to do called the KINGZ podcast, which was essentially like a relationship podcast. And him and I connected outside of this one open mic we always do. And we were just kind of like talking about dating and relationships and women. And like, I just gone through like a huge journey in the year of like, I got out of like a 5-year relationship and stuff like that. I was kind of like, I was doing like a lot of like soul searching and trying to figure out like, just kind of like have a philosophy. Cause I felt like every relationship I was ever in, like I just kind of, you know, went through the ABCs of that. But anyways, I was always been a huge fan of Patrice. Like Patrice is my favorite fucking comic. And I kind of like, oddly enough, I didn't discover Black Phillip though, like until I kind of like needed to discover it. It was like the universe does work in mysterious ways. Like I'm a huge fan of Patrice. I'd watched Elephant in the Room, Mr. P. Like I watched all his stuff, and somehow, like even watched O&A stuff. Somehow Black Phillip evaded me until like I needed it most, and I just connected so much with everything that like Patrice O'Neill said, that Dante Nero said, and like, you know, I still watch like Paige Phillip, Man School 202. Like I went like last month, right before the pandemic really like hit. Like Dante came and was performing in Worcester, and it was tremendous. And like just the way that because you know they're fucking like 50. You know, I mean, they spent their whole lives really sussing out and trying to understand women. They've dealt with hundreds of women, so it's like when they start telling you things. And they have a track record, right? And it works. And then you have people calling into their show going, holy fuck, this works. And then I started applying it to my life, and it was fucking shocking how well it started working, man, like crazy. And so it just started unlocking all sort of doors for me when it comes to like women and just understanding the philosophy and dichotomy of men and women in a very honest sense that like a lot of people find abrasive when I express it, but when they remove their ego beyond the abrasive words, I'm saying like the truth in the words is still there. So we started that podcast, the KINGZ podcast, which is, you know, just trying to essentially it's looking at, you know, we had 3 hosts on it. Charismatic, he kind of grew up mostly around women, so he has this sort of, I jokingly call him the bitch whisperer, because there's a lot of times I'll say this stuff and he'll be like, God damn it, Irish. He's like, I want to disagree with you because of the way you said it, but he's like, the fucking, like what you're saying is correct. And then he'll just like, he'll be like a translator, and he'll say it to like a woman will freak out at what I'm saying. And then he'll say the same thing, but with his like, you know, special, like, translation to them, and then they'll just get it. And it's like, yes, we're saying the same thing. So he's very good at kind of being a mediator. And then the other one is this other comic, Animush, and she's because you can't have a relationship show because we're guys mostly. We're going to talk about the male perspective, and so you still need like a woman's perspective in the room on a relationship show. So
definitely need some perspective, some balance there.
Exactly. So we've been doing that, and honestly, like this is the thing. Like it's funny. I've been doing S.T.C for like 2.5 years, and it's got like kind of a pretty solid cult following now. And KINGZ has only been going for like 50 episodes, but we do like 2 episodes a week. But like people really like it. I don't know if it's just because I just am uncompromising and abrasive to women, and it creates great content, or what. But like I don't know, man. Like it's just the philosophies they express are like it's one of the things I connected most in my entire life with was where I was taught something and I went, holy shit, this fucking works. Like this shouldn't work, but it works.
I know what you're talking about as far as like Patrice O'Neill and that like philosophy and stuff. I've heard him talk about that and do bits about that and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think and honestly, going back to Patrice O'Neill and your love for him,
mm-hmm.
When you were describing the S.T.C podcast, that reminded me a lot of him and kind of his philosophy and his not even just his comedy, but him on appearances on like Alex Jones or
well, he's just so dude. I've never seen a person that was so fucking insightful about anything. It could literally be anything. Like he's giving an example once on Black Phillip where he's talking about how guys can be philosophical about anything. He's like, we could just sit here as guys and not get bored. We could be fine while we're bored because we could just sit here and be like, would you fuck a guy? He goes, would you fuck a girl with no knees? And he's like, if you asked your boy that, he's like, what the first thing he would do? He goes, a woman would freak the fuck out and be like, what? A guy wouldn't freak out. He'd bring his 2 fingers up to his lip and he'd go, would I fuck a chick with no knees? And he'd like he'd really like run through the logistics of it and consider it, even though it's a silly, crazy hypothetical that might never happen. Like a guy will at least like run through that in his mind. Most women, I find, are incapable of hypothetical thought.
Really?
Like think about how many times, and I challenge guys to like, try it. Like think about anytime you're trying to give a chick a hypothetical, just unconsciously going for, don't say anything to her. Just give her like anytime you find yourself giving her a hypothetical example, watch, be like, hey, would you ever hypothetically, blah, blah, blah. A lot of times, if it's something that triggers something emotionally in them, they will not play along.
Huh.
Like, you know what I mean? Like most guys I talk to, like, and maybe it's just, I just only talk to fucking honest guys. Like you and me, like open book, like anything you want to know, like pretty much I'll tell you outside of like, my home address and like goofy shit like that. But like, you know what I mean? Like that's another thing I brought up to someone recently. I'm like, like if anyone that would try to like come at me, like, especially in like the Boston comedy scene or try and like, take me down or whatever. It's like, I've only ever like, you're not going to dig up anything on me because anything bad that I've ever done, it's just out there. Like, dog, I've taken my dick out on top 20 iTunes podcasts. Like, it's out there. You can't like, there's nothing to unfurl. Like, I'm just completely open book because that's the only way that you can make sure no one can fuck with you. If you're completely honest about everything, how can they hold any power over you? I don't let anyone have power over me.
Yeah, no, I get what you're, I get what you're saying towards that back end. Some of the stuff that you were saying before that about women and the hypothetical and the emotional, and I think what you were getting into was like them being controlling.
Well, it's this is the thing though, is what they are is abusive, but it's not their fault. Like this is the thing too, is like anything on, especially on the KINGZ, like I always blame guys. It's always the guy's fault because women are just the way they are, like on a nature level. You know what I mean? You can't blame someone for their nature. Like they're like, I'm trying to think of the best way to express it. Like they just, you know what I mean? Like everything they do. Okay, perfect example. Like I always say, like guys need to be completely honest and everything. This is the thing about women though, is like women are not honest, but they're not honest on a nature level. Like even little tiny things, because they don't want to think about how like women are so nice and have a nurturing like aspect that they don't even want to hurt your feelings. Like think it's the same. The easiest obvious example of that is like a mother to her like child typically is like very like, oh, like, hey mom, do I look goofy? And she's like, no son, you're handsome, you look great, but really you look like a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? Like, and she would never tell you that because she doesn't want to hurt your feelings. Like there's a lot of times your girlfriend, anyone that has an attachment to you, they're afraid to hurt. That's a female is afraid to hurt your feelings. So like they're so nice, they just inherently lie, but it's not a nature level. So it's like you can't really blame them for that. It's not like a malicious thing.
Yeah, I kind of what you're see what you're saying in that
Like
realm.
women's dishonesty is like natural. Guys are dishonest because we are most guys are fucking cowards and they're afraid to just be honest, because sometimes being honest might mean that the chick's gonna throw a drink in your face or she's gonna say fuck you. But this is the thing, it's like, why would you want to be in something where you can't be your complete honest self?
So what about the flip side of like that motherly lying, you know, that you explained, like no, you don't look goofy or whatever, and kind of that tendency. What about the flip side of that, which is not a lying niceness, but what do you think about women who feel the inability, who feel more bottled up or have to build more walls or barriers because if they show any sort of niceness towards a male, such as myself or yourself, then we typically take it as flirting or she's interested in me. And
so you're asking like what's the difference?
What about women who are withholding kindness because they don't want to be taken as you know, they're flirting with us or whatever.
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're talking about when
the psychological effect that we have had on women because of our nature of just, you know, hound dog kind of guys that are fucking flirt with every girl and pickup line kind of nature.
Well, okay, but this is the thing. What's wrong? I would argue there's nothing wrong with guys flirting with or hitting on women until the woman draws the line of like, I'm not, when she goes, I'm not interested, get lost, then the guy needs to fuck off. Like that's for sure. Like, but this is the thing is, and it's this very weird fucking thing. And like to an extent I get it because it's out of like fear. But like, there's so many times where women will do this shit where they will feign and go along with something, and then in retrospect, be like, okay, if you're fucking a chick, right, and she just, and she doesn't verbalize, but in her brain while you're fucking her thinks no, you're technically raping her,
right?
You know what I mean? And even if she's given you every indication of I want to fuck, even if she goes, yes, I want to fuck, like she could go in retrospect like, oh well, I was afraid that if I said no, you were going to assault me or whatever. And it's like, so you just decided that for both of us. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the kind of person where I don't fuck around with the word no. The moment no comes up, I don't fuck with you. It's over. It's done. Because especially in today's climate, and it's like, that's just out of respect for them and my own safety. So it's like, and you know, maybe I acknowledge that most guys are probably not that fucking with it. But like, they need to be better about that. But also women need to be better about just goddamn vocalizing no and being firm on it. They don't need to bullshit around and don't put themselves like, if you're not like, for the whole, you know, it's like the Aziz Ansari thing. It's like, don't go back to the guy's house. There's a certain implication there. Yes, it doesn't entitle him to something, but if you're a brain, you go, well, I don't automatically have to suck his dick. Correct, sure. But if you're going to his house, you can also realize that might give an indication, or that he might perceive that that's the case, or you might put yourself in a position where then it becomes this thing where you go, oh, actually, I don't want to suck your dick. Which if you and your brain go, oh, but then I'm going to be afraid to say something because I'm going to be alone in his house and he's a man, then just don't go there in the first place. Like there's just so many things like that. There's responsibility on both sides, but the problem is neither side really takes accountability.
So fuck, man. I think there, to that last part you were talking about, there is some truth to that, and it is there are certain implications involved with certain scenarios, right? Not just the taking back to the house or whatever.
And that word's key, implications. That's a fault of guys too. Because let me tell you, anytime a chick's ever come over to my place, there's a very explicit paper trail that I will have for legal reasons of, hey, if you're coming over, that's cool, but it will be to fuck. And it is just that blunt and honest. And if they don't give that, okay, I understand that, and I make them say it. I go, no. I need to know that when you're coming over here, that's happening. Because there's not, if you come over on some hangout and smoke and then you go, I'm not really feeling it, that's fine. I respect that. But then you can get the fuck out of my house. And then I won't fuck with you.
I've honestly had, I get what you're saying, and I respect that. As far as with women go, and that goes, and we're talking about the implications and stuff like that, and you're talking about how you avoid any of that by just being blunt, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's almost everything right with that. It's honest. And I was going to say this before when you were talking about, yes and no and communication. As a whole, the human race, we all need to work on our communication skills. The more that we can, the better that we can communicate with each other, especially people that's conversations or communications is on a sexual relationship, passionate of that nature. Definitely need to work on your communication. But B, when it comes to the implication, I really like what you said and stuff. And I don't disagree with that philosophy. If it works for you and it works for other people, and I'm not going to be a liar and sit here and act like I've never been blunt or been.
Yeah. It's hard to do, man, because as guys, we don't want to hurt their feelings. But
right. That's the thing, because I don't want somebody to hurt. I mean, not that I'm saying I'm not okay with being sexually objectified, but at the end of the day, too, this is what I'm trying to get at. The best luck that I've had with women recently, because I've had a lot of problems with women in my past. You know what I mean? For years, I was never like a ladies' man. You know what I mean? I was never really in relationships. Then when I did date a girl, it was for years upon years. And then the couple times that I've tried to get in relationships in the past couple years, I've been I've wanted it too much. You know
what do you mean by wanted it too much? Like you felt like you were so like, I need this relationship, I want it.
Not even necessarily a relationship, but sex or physical interaction. What the fuck?
Because pussy's a powerful weapon. It's fucking powerful, dude.
And what I'm trying to get at is I've had bad luck, and some of it's been because of the way that I get and the way that I the way that I act. And what I have found the best for me recently is to just be my fucking fullest self and just be the way that I would be with you. When certain scenarios do arise with a woman where you think that there is going to be where there's implications, those social contracts, kind of implications that are subliminally put on us. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you a perfect example of that when you're done.
When you can be in those moments with the opposite sex in a non-expectational zone in your head and just carry yourself in conversation and and being with that person the way that you fucking always would, and cancel out expectations, that's when I've had my best luck. That's when I've made my
Yes.
connections. You know what I mean? And it hasn't been, don't get me wrong, I love sex, but it hasn't necessarily been about sex. Yeah, that's great. There's definitely a place for. I think too, we're both coming from different places. There's kind of the booty call, Tinder, whatever. This is what it is. This is what you're coming over for. But there's also kind of like, hey, I kind of genuinely care about this person on a personal, on a level, on a person level. You're a
But
fucking.
but like after how much time? Because I mean, it I would argue this is the thing, right? Like for me, I always find that with women, it's what we want at first is always sex. Like if you see a chick at a bar, right? You see her at the other end of the bar. I don't know that she's charming from the other end of the bar. I don't know that she's funny, that she like that any of this. All I know and all a guy gives a shit about at first is yeah, I would fuck her. That's at first. And this is the thing. A lot of women freak out when I say that, but they have to understand that's just for a guy. We are like, until I tell women this all the time. Like, you don't get an honest guy until you fuck us. You know what I mean? Because a guy will say, and this is where guys fuck up because guys aren't honest. They will say fucking anything. A girl will be like, oh my God, do you like Peaky Blinders? I love that show. And you as a guy, you might not give a Frenchman's fuck about Peaky Blinders, but you will fucking compromise yourself and your integrity and go, oh my God, yeah, I love that show. It's so great. I watch it all the time on Netflix. And it's like, why lie? Why wouldn't you go, listen, I don't care about that. But I don't care about your cats. I want fuck. I know I want to fuck you. I don't know if you want to fuck me, but this is what I'm coming to the table wanting. So let's not beat about, or let's just, whatever happens, let's just not beat around the bush that at first, at least that's what I want. And then after we fuck, I go, cool. What else is there? Because a lot of times I think that women that, because, women are like, well, what are you saying? That all we are is pussy? And it's like, pussy isn't all I want unless pussy's all you got. But I don't know until guys have this sickness programmed into them on a nature level. Well, we don't know that until you fuck us. Once you fuck us, we go, whew, like this fucking, it's like we wake up from a trance and then we go, okay, what else is there? Do I want to hang out with this
Like
chick?
what you said about pussy isn't all I want until I realize pussy is all you got. But then at the same time, it's like I can't.
If a woman fucks you right away, it forces her to be more than her pussy.
Have a hard time carrying on a romantic or sexual relationship with somebody if I don't click with them. And like if you're fucking dumb, like I can't.
But then it might just be a fuck, right?
I mean, I had this girl that I hooked up with like back in 2019.
Okay.
And really sweet girl, really pretty girl, and we we talked and shit, and we were just kind of bullshitting back and forth, flirting, and then we hooked up.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did the process that you were talking about,
and part of your confidence came from you weren't necessarily trying to get anything, but you were being playful. And it's like, because women can tell when a guy's being thirsty. Like, you have to not be trying to get a girl to get a girl. It's like it sounds fucking dumb and like some ooh mysterious thing, but it's like it's almost like acid. That's the weird thing. It's like acid. You can't get what it's like until you get it. Like, you hear me say all this fucked up stuff, and I'll admit it sounds on the surface level kind of misogynistic, but once you implement it, like, you can ask the chick I'm with right now, dude. She's like, I've never been treated better. And I say all the shit I'm saying.
and that acid kind of philosophy is what I was initially trying to explain, is that when I don't want it, that's and it's not just with women. The universe is paradoxical in that way. The entire thing is paradoxical in nature. It's like the more you fucking want something, the less chance that you're gonna get it.
It's like the universe views it as arrogance. It's like, if you want it so bad, like, fuck you, wait, and when the time is right, I'll let you have it. It's like the more you want it, it's like you weirdly push it away. It's like any opportunity, like, and I'm sure I know so many people who have had like an opportunity in life where like something big, right? And that they were like, oh my God, this thing is going to happen. And then you tell a bunch of people and you're like, you get everyone all riled up and then it falls through and you're like, fuck. And then you go, fuck, I'm never going to tell people about shit until I have it in writing.
Yep. I was talking to somebody from the church about that recently. Do you know John Riley from the church?
I don't think so.
He produces like a lot of music and makes music for like, his stuff's been getting on like ESPN and Hulu.
Fuck yeah.
Like that.
That's what's up, church fam.
Something else really significant too, that is his music got, somebody bought some music that he produced.
Mm-hmm.
But him and I were kind of talking. I've reached out to him and was like, hey, I see everything you're doing. I just wanted to congratulate you, or from creator to creator, performer to performer, because I really do love seeing other people's creations. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I asked him what was he working on next, and what was going out next, and he didn't want to tell me for that reason that you explained, because it's like, the times that I have put this out into the universe to other people and told them about something ahead of time, it's fallen through.
Yep.
Talking about business, and he actually compared that, music projects to women.
Facts.
The times that I've been like, yeah, I'm going to hook up with this girl. Look, she's sending me new, or what the fuck ever. That's when it falls. That's when it doesn't work out.
Yep. But that album I put out with my band, dog, I've been talking about putting that fucking piece of shit album out for fucking like 7 years at least. And it was literally, how many times I put out updates of like, we're going to have news soon. We're going to have news. And then I was like, I'm just going to stop saying that until I have fucking news to give. Because I sound like I'm a piece of shit to act like there's news coming and it just gets delayed or whatever. It's just like, ugh.
Well, it's like, I do believe in like speaking things into existence and like manifesting or whatever, but there is like you can totally fuck yourself in that way, man.
It's you know what it is, like, let's get quasi spiritual before I get back to beating up women. What do you think do you believe in any kind of higher power? And if so, like, what's your interpretation of it?
So, yeah, I believe in a higher power, Joey. I've been really getting into like, obviously I take a lot of psychedelics, so
yeah.
So like, a lot of people who are religious and do psychedelics, or a lot of psychedelic literature you might read, they'll tell you that that's like it's like a mystical steroid, basically. You know what I mean? So I'm definitely into like mystical, spiritual things. I think mystical is the best possible word for me to use.
It's a good word.
People have like a cult has bad connotation.
Yeah.
But I definitely read a lot of mystical literature. My interpretation of a higher power is it's hermetic. It's an all source. It's a spirit. It's an ether. It's an electromagnetic force.
So okay, so we basically probably believe about the same thing, because usually the way I describe it is like the force from Star Wars minus the whole like I can move shit, like minus the whole like I can pick up objects and fucking like wave a hand and fucking make someone repeat words back to me kind of thing, like that sort of energy like in the universe and everything that's around us, like that's kind of what I think.
Yeah, I definitely believe in we're in the mind of, or we are of some ultimate force, and it is I think it's shapeless and sexless.
Yeah, it's just it's some form of energy. And like maybe that interpretation is different for each individual person. Maybe we all feel it the same way. It's hard to say because that's always the weird thing, right? Is it's like you're like, how? Because I've always wondered like we all go like, this is red. We all go, this is what red is. But like, I wish that I could, like, my left eye see my left eye's red and my right eye see your left eye's red. And like, are we seeing the exact same red? Like, you know, like I go like, this is red, but are we actually seeing the same shit? And like, I just wondered, like, do people see, like, if things actually get like different, like, you know what I mean? Like how we actually see what it actually would be like to be a different person. Like that kind of shit's so like heavy to me for some reason. Maybe just because I'm a dumb stoner fuck.
Something we usually talk about on your podcast is perspective. So right, I think we've done a couple podcasts of yours. End up being
one of my favorite moments ever was you capping off a fantastic rant, and then you were like, it's goddamn perspective, and then you pranced around the room back and forth in front of the camera like fucking Macho Man Randy Savage. You just hear Scott off camera just, ooh, perspective.
We've done it a couple times. My new one, and this really does tie into, but perception, and how we perceive the universe, and I think there are different levels of perception, like you're talking about. There, you know, there's different planes. You know, if you
there's different planes of perception, and then there's just different perception even on a human level between people, because some people are just in general more perceptive than other people. It's wild.
Right, just on like an intellectual perception, but
it's
also
an inception perception.
But also, like you were talking about, like a visual perception. I definitely think there's different a spectrum. You know, if you had my left eye and your right eye, would this red lighter look the same shade of you know what I mean?
And then how much does influence play into it?
Would it look the same shape?
Yeah, exactly. Would it look the same shape? Would it be the same shade? Would our perception of it have anything would our perception of it be altered by our influence that we've had in life? Would that somehow alter how we perceive red?
100%. Would you perceive the depth between the lighter and the phone? Right?
Right.
Etc. You know, would
you perceive how the lighter feels in your hand the same? Do we because you got to think about it, even like weed, right? Like weed, marijuana, have 420, everyone affect every strain, like affects like, you know what I mean? People are affected differently by different strains.
What about taste perception? Not everything tastes great to me that tastes great to you. Cilantro,
exactly.
Soap to some people, metal to others, and it tastes delicious to people like me.
And this comes to another thing too, which I always talk about. It's like the whole concept of equals. Like, I don't really believe there's a concept of equal, other than we should all be treated respectfully and like everyone have an equal voice. But a lot of people go like, we're all equal, and it's like, we're not. We're all different. I go, even the very nature that I might think apples are shitty and you might like apples, that alone makes us different enough that we're not equal.
Well, yeah,
we should be treated the same. I shouldn't be able to go, well, Scott likes apples and I don't, so fuck him. He can't vote, and he's 3/5 the person. It shouldn't be like that, but it's just merely like it's different.
We're the same, but we all have different experiences.
Exactly.
Some of ours cross over, right? And buddies because of that. And let's ride the Greyhound and do Ask Let's podcast. So another thing about perception is, and this is where I get into weird, mystical, almost magic realms. So we're talking about perception, and we're talking about how we perceive things, how we view the universe. Words shape the universe.
Yes.
Right? Words shape our perception. You wouldn't know what red is if that would just be what it is. It would just be that.
Yeah. It's only red because somebody at some point assigned it red, and you were taught that that's what red is. The concept of red was incepted into you.
So because of words shaping perception, it already changes the way a lot of people perceive the world, just on a practical level.
Yeah.
Some people grow up and become raging fucking racists.
Yeah.
You know, you understand? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I can never understand how anybody could have like genuine hate for an entire group of people. It's like I've had hate in my heart for fucking a couple of people of a couple of different races, but it's like their race had no factor. It's like that person was just a piece of shit. You know what I mean? It's like I don't understand like it's just wild to me on like in terms of racism how like you could just, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I've had a shitty experience with a black person before. I don't go like, well, they're all bad. Like, just what kind of a psycho does that?
Yeah. And it's a sad world, and it exists all over the world, not just in America. I would argue that racism is even worse in Europe, where the countries are all closer together.
Yeah.
There's a lot more national pride, a lot of nationalism.
Well, and that's the thing, right? No one calls out, I hate to pile on China, but why not? It's like, you know, no one calls out the fact that China's probably, and I'm just throwing a number out there, 90% Chinese, and that might be generous. It might even be more, but it's like, do you think that there's any diversity quotas in China? Do you think that people are going like, well, we have to consider how other non-Chinese people, they go, fuck you, adapt to our culture, or fuck you. They legit like have that attitude, and it's like that's by American standards racist, but like nobody call like. And I always bring that point up to women too, even with like feminism. I go like, yes, there's probably a lot that could still be done in this country for women, for sure. They've done a lot and have come a long way. However, I would argue that the women in Iraq are still fucking back in the Stone Ages. So why don't all the feminists in America mount up and go try and bring some of that positive energy and change into effect over there? You know why? Because it's more convenient to just complain and stay here, even though things are pretty good. It's like, I think that if you find that it's really that bad and there's that much injustice to women in the world, go out and effectively try and make that change. And I don't know, it's a thing I run into constantly with women. It's like all I'm at. I love women. Even though I sound like I hate women, I love women. I want women to be the best that they can be. And I don't let them get by on excuses, or because this is the thing. It's like a lot of times, like a lot of times men just give in to what women want, and I think that does them a disservice, because it's like, you know, it's no different than if you fuck up, if a girl breaks up with you, right, and you're like, fuck, you're like, and you're like, anytime you've ever thought, what did I do wrong, and you didn't get an answer, it fucks with you. And it's like, why would you want to leave, you know, just give into a chick's demands and will, just because you want to appease her? And like, that's a big thing that I've learned, and with all this mentality, is just having the ability to say no to a woman. Like, I'm sure like every guy can attest to a time in the past. This is just a real easy thing. It's like you've been with a chick or whatever, and she's like, you might be in the middle of something. You might be playing video games. You might be writing. You might be playing with your balls. You don't know whatever. You might be just doing something, having a good time. And she goes, let's watch something. You want to watch something? And you really don't want to fucking watch something, but you know that she wants to interrupt the good time that you're having right now to watch something. And how many guys can tell me, like, every guy has given into that and been like, yeah, let's watch something. And you sacrifice your own happiness to sit through some dumb show or some horseshit that you really don't want to watch. You really don't want to do it. And it's nothing against her. It's nothing about that. It's you go, my time is precious to me. I don't want to fucking watch this dumb show. I want to be doing what I want to be doing.
Yeah, I can definitely, but that comes with sacrifice. I mean, how much do you think that women that you've been with have put up with dumb shit that we want to do? You know what I mean?
Oh, a woman has to put up with a lot to be with me, but I'll be honest with you. They know coming in exactly what they're signing up for. And when they take problem with it, I'll tell you what happens when a woman takes problem with it when they're with me, is because a woman's journey is to try and change when you get with a chick, right? And again, none of this is a woman's fault. It's just how they are. when a woman's like a little girl, right, she creates this idea of like a Prince Charming in her head. And when she gets in a relationship, it's her unconscious mission to turn you in from whatever you are into her perception, keying in that word, perception of Prince Charming is.
Into the prince.
But the problem is she came on board with you acting the way that you are. So a guy's journey has to be staying the motherfucker that he is when she came on board, because she came on board thinking you were cool like that. When girls end up getting bored and they leave you, it's because they allow you. And I'm gonna drop a no word because women fag us up into this vaginal shit of what a guy naturally isn't going to go do the whole booby boo boo bear, like rub the thumb over. They make us do that. And once they do that and they take our manhood from us, okay, then they leave us, because that's not who they signed up for to date. They want the guy that they dated, but they unconsciously are trying to change you from that. So you have to fight hard, and it sucks because you have to be colder than you want to be to them sometimes. You want to do the boo. It's part of the resentment is you want to do the booby boo boo bear shit. But if you do that, inherently on down the road, they will lose respect for you and get bored. Because once a woman feels like she's got you and knows all your shit, she inherently gets bored and is done with you.
See, there is truth to what you are saying, but it's not necessarily the whatever the cutesy wootsy shit. Because I like doing certain stuff too, but yeah, I don't want to watch fucking musicals, but you know, I like going. I like going out to nice dinners or what the fuck ever, or doing things or cuddling, or whatever. What it is you can't neuter your. All right, for me right now, if I were to stop, if being serious in a relationship, right, meant for me to stop pursuing my comedy.
Oh, that's an easy decision for you.
Well, no, then that should mean for her that we can't be together anymore.
Well, dog, it's exactly what my mentor that like I work with for like producing and stuff, like he taught me. He's like, he's been with his wife for 30 years, and he told her when she came on board, he goes, "Don't ever make me choose between you and the music, because you'll be the fatality." He just told her that flat out. If you ever put me in that position to choose, I'm choosing music. So know that. So don't be upset and shocked if you put me in that position, because you know the answer. You know what will happen. And that's the thing. A lot of guys, what I don't like is guys sacrificing their own happiness. And I see a lot of that happening, because it's like guys have to understand, like for me, a girl can only be the fourth most important thing in my life. And this is a thing this is another Patrice quote that I learned, and it fucking made sense to me. The order has to be you, your career, your mother, if you're close to your mother, and then you. And you could substitute mother for family, whatever. But like, and a girl has to understand that, and you can't, like, guys literally lose themselves in girls sometimes, and that's where they fuck up. Like you've gotta have it where if they walk out of your life, it's like, what would you really miss?
Right.
You think about any girl, you're like, what would you really miss? It's pussy at first.
What it is you can't become codependent. You both have to be interdependent. It's okay for a woman to be independent and for you to be independent. But what you do is you learn how to synchronize that independence, and it's called interdependence. And you're right, you can't kill yourself to be with somebody. And you're right, as a man, as a human being, you're not just man or woman, yourself, your whatever it is, your career or your whatever it is, I guess your career, you know what I mean, your creative passion, whatever that thing is, those two things have to come before a relationship. And then, like you said, your mother or your father or your child or your dog, for me, those things, the way that I have my career lined up, the way that my life is with my dog, and especially with the fucked up life that I've lived and years of therapy and psychedelics and meditation that I need to work on myself, my career, and my dog before I focus on a relationship. And it doesn't not have one. That just means these three things come first.
Well, and you can't give your all to a chick because you have to save a bit for yourself if she leaves you, if she fucks you over. Like there's so many guys that you see them all fucking devastated. It's because they gave their everything to a chick. And it's like you can't do that.
Both ways. That totally goes both ways. Let's get back into perception, and then we'll finish off on women. Yeah.
Just like we always do. Hey.
So, have you ever smoked DMT or done a massive amount of psilocybin mushrooms?
So in regards to DMT, I've done DMT, but I haven't ever broken through.
But did you still have like open eye visuals?
I had a little bit of visuals, but you know what it was? It was like the visual to me was like everything felt incredibly high definition. And I felt like I felt almost like Men Who Stare at Goats level, where I felt like just sitting in a room, I could look at anything and understand like how it was put together and how it worked. Or I understood like I could just sit here and go like, there's 3 outlets in this room, and I would just be right. Like I just felt like I had like this insane heightened perception.
Like you had psychic abilities?
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
Do you believe in psychic abilities?
To an extent. I don't know that there's like really anything
at all.
What's that?
Do you study Eastern philosophy at all, or listen to like Alan Watts?
Nah, not enough to be able to act like I know anything about it.
In like the Eastern religion communities and mysticism, the psychic abilities aren't like unheard of or like a strange phenomenon.
I believe it. I think it's probably like kind of rare, but and I think rare in the sense that people that have it with a tangible understanding and use of it. I'm sure like a lot of people have it because there's all kinds of dude. Like I'm sure you have plenty of deja vu moments that are like things where you go, I know that I vividly dreamed this like months prior to it happening.
I think I saw one time somebody said, I can't remember who it was like, what if deja vu is like a parallel universe, right? And that like your existence now and on a parallel universe, their orbits are kind of like syncing up in that moment.
Oh, right? So there's like a weird like disturbance where there's like a bit of a crossover.
Right. Another theory I've heard for deja vu is like, and this one I do kind of believe because I have deja vu a lot when I'm tripping, and when you're tripping, your synapses and your brain is firing off really fast, and that's what's causing some of your hallucinations is because your retina is fucking taking shit in at such a quick like rate of speed, or like shutter rate or whatever, you know what I mean? So what I think another theory for deja vu is that like you're like seeing it, perceiving it, remembering it like an instant before you see it, experience it. That your brain is like moving faster than your body is.
Yeah, so like it can't keep up with and actually process or interpret what's going on.
Right. It's like a processor malfunction. I mean, there's also like the Matrix, the Matrix theory.
Yeah, where it's just like a glitch in the system.
Yeah, they changed something.
Well, because it's weird to me because the sensation is for anytime I go like whoa, like I've like deja vu kind of like been here kind of thing. It's always where I can instantly remember back to the like where I went like, oh, I remember like 6 months ago I fucking like vividly dreamed this, where it was like
Right.
Like the people were there, but it's like in the dream, I didn't have the perception until the event, the deja vu occurred. I didn't have the perception fully revealed where I go like, holy shit, that was this person in that dream, and blah, 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 blah. And then like it was vividly obvious. It's weird because it's like in the dream, I can see their face clearly, but it's like I almost can't assign the name to it until the deja vu happens, which is weird because it's like if I could do that in theory, maybe I can see the future, but probably not.
Exactly. So yeah, you can reverse engineer that, right? If you can learn how your deja vu is working and you unplug from screens and stimulants and all those outside consciousness, right?
Yeah.
And you can learn how to tap into the fucking collective conscious or whatever you want to call it, where deja vu and premonition comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And you can learn how to control to tap into that, then you can have psychic abilities or see the future, right?
Facts. There's a pathway to anything in life.
Right? There's got to be something to that. But all right, we were talking about perception, and I asked you about DMT, and we went down the psychic.
Yeah. So, DMT, haven't broken through, and then the other one you asked me was mushrooms. Yeah, I've done mushrooms a bunch of times. I love mushrooms. Do you take them plain old, or do you ever lemon tech them?
No, you've told me to do that before, actually.
Dude, it's a fantastic thing for anyone that has that likes doing mushrooms. I know a lot of people that often get like this. They'll there's the classic association with mushrooms. You get like the stomach pain and like vomiting and stuff like that. I learned this trick to fucking avoid it, and it is actually science, even though I probably was like a B average student in science. So the reason that stomach pain happens, right, is because when the mushrooms interact with the acidity of your stomach, a conversion process happens, and it goes from being and I always fuck this up, but it goes from one to the other, but it's like from psilocybin to psilocin, or it's the other way around. I can never remember. And that process is what causes that. What you can do to avoid that is if you take the mushrooms and put them in a cup, like break them up a little bit, right? Saturate them in lemon juice, like enough so that they're kind of floating in it a little bit. And you just let it sit for 30 minutes. The acidity of the lemon juice acts like your stomach acid, and it does the process in the cup. So then 30 minutes later, when you just fucking pinch your nose and shoot the cup, it's already, you're just getting the pure conversion. And I think that it's A, cleaner, B, never had any stomach issues in anyone I've recommended it to, never any stomach issues, and C, maybe this is just my perception, but it feels a bit stronger.
I imagine the vitamin C from the lemon juice helps your
tremendous. The worst part is the taste, but dog, if you just fucking shoot it, ain't no thing.
So my only thing with that personally is I had an ulcer in 7th grade. So now when I eat spicy food, like pretty much anything like acidic or tomato based or
fuck you up. You know what you can do? Ready? You know how they make those little like gas station like smoothie things, like the little like naked drinks or whatever? You can just dump it in that and just drink that.
That's true. All right.
That's what I usually do sometimes if I'm lazy and I'm like I don't want to just shoot this lemon. Just
some of that citrus, yeah. Because if I drink too much like citrus, it'll fuck me up, dude. It'll fuck my guts up.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to ask you about the DMT was one of the last times I smoked. I always get that high definition open eye thing too, but mine was like beyond high definition over to like third eye definition. And what by that is you could still see the regular environment, right? Like my friends, the porch, the street, the cars, the lampposts, but everything was a little bit bubblier, or it looked like it was from like a clown realm or like fucking a Dr. Seuss realm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All the shapes to everything kind of changed a little bit. Like it was still a shape of a car, but the edges weren't as sharp. You know, everything was more rounded.
Things started melding together a little bit.
Yes, that is what I wanted to talk to you about. So one thing that happens is you kind of lose the depth perception, and everything becomes one fabric, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced that on a high dose of mushrooms or DMT or mescaline? If you've ever taken mescaline,
Yeah, I would say a couple times on mushrooms, but I would say the most intense ever was on acid actually, and it was acid I got off the Silk Road.
yeah, another great. I don't know why I didn't. Yeah, acid, same effect.
It was like the first time I allegedly ever ordered off the Silk Road, and I allegedly got 125 micrograms of like I think it was Czechoslovakian crystal or something it was called, but it was funny. It was funny. It came and I was like, I remember I was living. Funny enough, I bullshit you not, in North Bergen, New Jersey. I was living in North Bergen, New Jersey, where Joey Diaz grew up.
Nice.
Right near the Garden State Plaza Mall, and I was in my bedroom, and I had done a lot of acid before this. Like I think right the last trip before I had done like 300 micrograms. So I was like 125. I go, I'm gonna make a cool music playlist. I'm just gonna kind of hang out in my room, maybe play some video games, listen to music, just chill. And I took it, and I was just like it always goes with me and you, Scott Wharton. I was looking out a window, smoking some weed, looking at a tree. And there was just this sudden shift. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, fuck. And it's when I learned, like there is just we were talking about earlier, like putting an arrogance out into the universe. Like there's even an arrogance to taking acid. Because like I was like, oh, 125 ain't shit. But I didn't consider that it was insanely pure acid. And dog, I literally crawled into bed. I blindfolded myself and hit play on the music and just put these fucking headphones on. And I just sat there and went to a different fucking universe. Just faceless beings, like just on all cylinders, just like it started like when I put the blindfold on, I swear to God, it was almost like virtual reality. Like went on and I was standing at the top of like a Grand Canyon. But if I looked everywhere, it was just nothing for miles in sight, just fucking like that kind of like terrain and just kind of dark in the background. And then just what I could perceive to be a deep bottomless abyss. And I was like, should I jump into it? And then I was like, I turned around in this place and I put my back to it. And I kind of went like this and I was going to start leaning back. And then I sat up in bed and took the shit off. And I was like, whoa. I was like, that was kind of fucking scary. And then I was like sitting there for a minute and I went, fuck it. I literally just went, fuck it. And then I went, and I'm talking like the moment I pulled the blindfold down, just like instantly like back there. And then I just fell back into it. And then I just kind of like, I ceased to be a singular thing. It was just kind of like a synesthesia, like meld, like you were talking about.
So, with acid, that definitely the same thing. The same effect can happen to you on acid. And for me on acid, what happens with seeing the connection between everything is usually like on a symbolic or a linguistic level, but also when it comes to visually, it's like a geometric level. And I can see the energy waves between things. I can see how they're bouncing in a geometric pattern, or I can see like the geometric pattern in the clouds, or I can see like geometric patterns surrounding a bird as it like cuts through the sky.
Interesting.
You know, and what I think that is, all right, so last time I smoked DMT, I was telling you, everything, I kind of lost my depth perception, and everything became like one fabric. You know, the trucks, the road, the building, the tree, my friend. There was no separation between them other than like color and some outlines.
They're Paper Mario.
There was no depth between them. Yeah, kind of like that. But everything was in like a high definition color, And my friend, I remember specifically, had like these tribal, like mystical symbols like painted on his face. He looked like a clown that had like Egyptian hieroglyphs all over his face. It was amazing. But there's this really great quote from William Blake in this book called The Marriage of Heaven and Hell. And what it is when the doors of perception are cleansed, things will appear to man as they truly are, infinite.
It's fucking heavy.
And I mean, you know about string theory and the concept that everything is one, everything vibrates, everything vibrates.
Yeah.
So I think what happens is when you take a certain amount of psychedelics, it slows the the space in between. It slows those vibrations down, or your mind becomes less concerned with that depth because it feels that it doesn't need it for the utility reasons that it needs it to differentiate space and time for survival. So there's this other book, The Doors of Perception by Aldous Huxley, and also another essay in it called Heaven and Hell. So The Doors of Perception is a book where Aldous Huxley, he writes these two essays about the mescaline experience, and it really describes kind of the same concepts that we're talking about as far as the infinite of the universe, the melding of self and not self. But it's super interesting the way that he explains it, as far as like he sees it as like there's an other world, you know what I mean? There's kind of this world and other world, and they exist simultaneously on top of each other. But what it is our minds have to differentiate things and for genetic survival purposes. And when you take certain psychedelics, it allows that drip that comes from the spiritual world, in dreams and stuff like that.
Yeah, it kind of opens the faucet a little bit.
Fucking faucet. And when you take psychedelics, you can really see that, and you can start to see the nature of the infinites of things. And it kind of helps change your perception. And it's still hard to keep in mind, you know what I mean? I'll leave this room today, and if I encounter the wrong person or have the wrong phone call, it might affect me in the wrong way because my perception is askew. But really, at the end of the day, I just think we all come from that infinite force, and we are equal, but we are different, because we have different experiences. We grow in different vessels, but part of the point of this existence is to compare and contrast our experiences to hopefully fucking learn from each other, and alter our perspective and our perception of what this world is and what our purpose is.
I would agree with everything except for the equal but different thing, because I think that's a bit of a oxymoron. If it's different, it can't exactly be equal.
Yeah.
But I know. I mean, I know what you're saying. I'm kind of just being a nitpicky cunt because you know my MO. But
and I've been known to contradict myself. You asked me earlier about what my conception of God or a higher power is. I told you what it is, but I have other theories that I think might be possible too.
Yeah. Well, and a more tangible example too of like the what I'm arguing against the equal but different thing too is like there was like an episode of KINGZ. I was arguing with this woman, and she was like, she said, "You disrespected me like a man," and I was like, "I can't respect you like I respect a man." And she was like, "What does that mean?" And I had to explain to her. I go, I looked at Charismatic sitting across from me. I go, the respect I give someone like Charismatic, or the respect I give you, Scott, or fucking EK, is that like we're all men. If we really disagreed enough, right, we could take it to a physical place and get in a fight. So I can't do that with a woman. No matter how upset or annoyed I get with a woman, because of society, I can't do that. People could argue moral too, but so inherently, I can't give the same respect that I give to you to a woman. That doesn't mean it's necessarily a lesser than. That doesn't necessarily mean anything other than it's a different respect. In the same way that you love your mother differently than you would love your girl. It's just different. But it's not. It can't be equal because it is different.
Yeah. And I personally think that, man. I think that is. I mean, what about Paige Vanzant? Does she get the same respect from you, or does she get more respect from you than I do? Because she can fuck you up.
But you know what? But and that's fair. That's fair. She could fuck me up. I'm a 27-year-old out of shape nobody talking into a mic, and she's a phenom. However, she's not better than her male equivalent.
Right.
And that's where I go to women. I go, is that really equal? Because it's like that, and that's that's a perfect example. Bring up Paige Vanzant because it's like you bring up her male. Let's just say Sage Northcutt, whether or not that's actually true or not. Let's just for the name of putting a name to it. They're equal. It's like for them to be equal. It's not like this can't happen. But even on a societal level also, she can't step up to man level because of the physiological difference and everything. So the guy has to kind of be a bit submissive and come down to their level. And I get that sounds super misogynistic and condescending, but remove that feeling from it. Like the logic behind it is true. Like a guy does have to kind of submit, and it's you know what it is? It's the king queen system that I always preach. It's a famous fucking patricism. It's right. If you're a king, Scott, you're a goddamn king, sir. If you're a king, right, and you're let's just say pick a country, Scott. Where you want to be king of? Germany. Scott is the king of Deutschland. All right. He's got riches. He's got everything. He's got power. He's a king. Okay. If Scott went and married a nobody bum woman off the street, a homeless lady, just by Scott marrying her, she automatically gets elevated to the highest position. Queen. She's automatically a queen just by you marrying her. Now, if you reverse it, and this is a genius thing that Patrice and Dante say all the time, if you reverse it, right? If you had a queen and she goes out and marries just a bum homeless guy off the street, what does he become? He doesn't become the king. He's the queen's husband. See, a woman in the position of power doesn't, and at least in a relationship sense, doesn't elevate a man to his highest level. It's natural for them to be under us, but I get how that inherently sounds like some crazy misogynistic concept, but it's an implication. It's not. You can talk to any chick I've been with. They ain't been abused. They ain't been treated bad.
Yeah. So that's another thing I wanted to ask you, and I'm not trying to attack you. I don't think you're a bad guy.
No, not at all, dog.
I disagree with some of the things that you are saying, and I've expressed how I whatever, but it's
I'm a spicy fuck.
Neither here nor there. And hey, dude, I have my ways too. I'm no fucking peach. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I haven't been an asshole or like I can't be misogynistic.
You're more like a juicy mango,
dude. But do you think some of your abrasiveness towards women comes from bad past relationships, from resentment of ex-girlfriends?
That's what always gets brought up. That's usually one of like women's first things is they do some shit where they go like, oh, you're just bitter because some woman like hurt you or something like that. And it's like, it's not that. It's like those things, if anything, help me get to where I'm at now but when I was in those situations, I wasn't putting my happiness first. My abrasiveness and everything is that if you weren't, it's if you ever been in a car with it's like this. You ever been in a car and with a chick and you're bumping some fucking tunes and you're just having a good time driving, and she just keeps turning the fucking radio down.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I watched Charismatic do this one time, and it was genius. It was one of the reasons we're good friends. A chick did that to him, and he just paused and he looked at her and he goes, "Let me ask you a question. What do you think I would do if you weren't here?" And she goes, probably leave the volume up. And he goes, "There you go. That's what I would be doing to have a good time. Why are you coming into my life doing anything that doesn't equate to adding to a good time? Your job is not, life is shitty and hectic enough by yourself that another person, their job isn't to come in and add strife. Now, there's upon taking on another person in your life, yes, there's natural things like someone they might have a family issue come up, or they might have a financial, like that's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about just the little fucking nitpicky annoying shit, like when a woman has, because a woman always does shit with pretense. What are you doing tonight? Nothing. Oh, well, if you're not doing anything, you want to go to a movie? I might be doing nothing and I don't want to go to a movie. But you can't, most guys feel like they can't say that because then it's going to start a whole argument. So they just go, it's just easier to go to the movie and get it over with. Fuck that. I'm not even willing to compromise that. I feel like if you're coming into my life and you're going to be with me, we're not together. It's another famous quote. We're not together. I'm with you. You're with me. So I shouldn't feel like my life, my precious time in life, the only life that I have, is being hindered, or I'm having to compromise what my ultimate happiness would be because of your feelings.
1000%. I agree with that.
And I'm just abrasive about expressing that.
Yeah. And I should go back and say, for everything that I haven't disagreed with you on, I fully agree with you on. Because there's a lot of merit to the things that you're saying too. No, I get it, bro. And fuck, dude, there's nothing wrong with that. What works for you works for you.
Nope.
It probably, I feel like a lot of your abrasiveness or the way that you might come off to people isn't necessarily a product of bitterness or resentment from past relationships, but bitterness, resentment, or a fuck you, a radical mindset, a free speech mindset against the PC culture and the cancel culture and the extreme feminists, not equalists.
That's exactly it.
Culture that you specifically have to deal with, not only just being the comic that you are and the podcast host that you are and talking about the themes that you do, but also taking that into the scene that you're in that college town, and that even though it's a lot of people think of Boston as like a predominantly white town or an Irish.
Yeah. You gotta fight, dog. You gotta fight if you're passionate.
It's a college town, and there's a lot of, I'm sure, like Richmond, there's a lot of PC social justice warrior characters that are super passionate about their views, and when they express themselves, they are abrasive, and I could see how that would make somebody reflect that tone.
Yeah. And it's just, that's how I feel in all things in life. It's like I don't want to have to edit myself for other people's feelings.
What I'm saying,
that fucks with my happiness.
You're a product of your environment.
Exactly. I'm a cunt because you people fucking made me one.
No, but no, I mean, and shit like that happens. I'm definitely when you if you keep assuming the worst of somebody, right? If somebody keeps trying to do good or has good intention or whatever, right? And or if somebody's fucked up in the past and you keep bringing up their past, and then because of their past you keep assuming the worst of them, because of that you're going to push them to do the worst because of whether it's a rebellion or whether it's just something you see as the worst because you have projected this on them because you keep putting that out there, or whether it's out of just sheer frustration, that you ultimately do the worst.
Facts.
Not condoning the worst. I'm not saying that you should be Jack the Ripper, Irish.
Are you sure? Are you sure that's not what you're telling me?
I'm not saying it, and I'm not saying that I wouldn't condemn you if you did. But what I'm saying is, it's 420, Cracker. I love
you too. Should we have one last little blaze and then we'll fucking end this shindig?
I'll eat some crackers. Yeah, you got stuff to do.
Fucking A, sir. It's been a goddamn pleasure smoking this bong and this fucking
or a cuck, because I do agree with a lot of the things that you're saying, and you can't, because I've killed parts of myself to be in relationships before, and it's one of the ugliest things you can do. And looking back on it, I do not miss.
And that's the thing. It was your fault, wasn't it? Because you submitted yourself to do all that stuff.
Because you let somebody, and the more that you let them, it's you give somebody an inch and they take a mile, and that's what it becomes. And it's my only problem with some of the things that you were saying is you were generalizing with just women, and I hate to be generalized. So whenever
it's fair, and you know what? That's another big problem people have with what I say. But the only defense I can have to that is that, like, I have to generalize. You know what I mean? I'm talking about millions of people, and I can't help every individual specific person, but I can try and help like the mass amount of people. And I find, like, more often than not, like, most people fall within these standard traditional boundaries. And I hesitate to use the word traditional because what I'm talking about is and isn't traditional.
Toxic and controlling relationships and stuff like that, though, go both ways 100%.
Yeah.
People are manipulative and controlling and want power, and when they see that they can take an inch, they're gonna.
Power can corrupt.
Yep. But Joey, I love you, dude. Thank you.
I love you too, Scott.
This was the first remote podcast that I did, so
hell yeah, dog. Thank you for not having me on your not podcast.
Yes, thank you for not doing it.
Hell yeah, thank you.
How they can find your podcast and find you on social media.
Oh yeah, so guys, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at It's Irish O'Neill. Follow my podcast, the S.T.C podcast. That's Shit Talking Cunts. We go live every Sunday on YouTube. You can call in and talk shit with us. Out on iTunes and all major podcasting apps a few days later. And then the other podcast I do is the KINGZ podcast that goes live on Sundays and Thursdays. It's a relationship podcast. You can also call into that. Guys, if you have relationship questions, you want to argue with me, if you disagree with some of the things you think, call in and we'll talk about it on the air. But that's where you can find me, motherfuckers.
Yeah, dude. Keep doing what you do, Joey. Don't let, and I already know that you're not.
Right back at you, sir. Takes a village.
I'm going to eat some crackers.
Fuck yeah. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, EK. Appreciate it, guys. Take it easy. Happy 420.
Happy 420, buddy. You have a good night. Thanks, EK.